Today we're going to be speaking about Shavuot. And I want to tell you what a beautiful, beautiful holiday this is. Zman Matan Toratenu. The Jewish character was created in this day. With this giving of the Torah to the Jewish people, we've gained the greatest gift that any nation can have. The legacy, the heritage that the Torah means to us. We will be speaking today about the honor of the Torah. How a great holiday it is for us to be able to have this holiday of Shavuot. I want to start by talking a little bit about a story that I saw in the paper. An Italian woman was recently kidnapped by one of the ISIS affiliates in Africa. And she was held captive for quite a while. The Italian government negotiated with the terrorist, and they actually were able to free her. Apparently, also they had to pay a lot of money to free her. She came back to Rome, to Italy, now dressed as a Arab woman with a khadr and all the. She became a Muslim, and she's no longer by the name of Sylvia. Now she's Aisha. And the article pointed out something very, very interesting that I want to share with you. The article suggests that although the Italians are very angry with her and so on, the article said freedom is a great thing to have. And obviously in the Muslim countries, the treatment of women and other things and freedom are a problem. So you want to live in a Western society because there's freedom. But the reporter says, but on the other hand, what purpose are these freedoms for if you do not have a purpose? What are the freedoms are to fulfill something? What purpose is it to fulfill? Freedom cannot be an end in itself, only a means to pursue a higher purpose. And this is the theme that I want to talk with you today. Because Shavuot and Pesach are connected, intimately connected by the Sfira, to drive home that simple message. Freedom is not enough if you do not use the freedom to create a purpose in life and a meaning in life. Without the Torah, the coming out of Egypt would have been meaningless. As it is with any country that becomes independent, that becomes free from tyranny, if it does not have a purpose, if it doesn't have a spiritual meaning, the nation will eventually collapse and end. So this is the meaning of Shavuot, the content, the purpose by which we should live. And for the Jewish people, the Torah is the purpose, is the fulfillment of that idea of obedience to Hashem, of a life of morality, of a universal message. All of these things, our lives have a meaning. To live as a Jew has a purpose and a meaning. And in fact, is an everlasting meaning. So I want to start by talking a little bit about the famous story of Ruth. You recall that when Naomi loses her two sons and her husband in the country of Moab, she decides to return to Israel. And as she's returning with her two daughters-in-law, she turns to them and says, why are you coming with me? There's no reason. You cannot marry anymore any member of my family because I have no more children to give you. And go back to your homes, go back to your religion, go back to your people. You converted it, but it doesn't really matter. There's no sense in your being with me. And of course, both of them cry and they insist, no, they want to come with you and they want to come with you. After a while, so much persistence by Naomi, one of the women by the name of Orpah comes and gives her a kiss, and with tears in her eyes, she turns back and goes away. Ruth, on the other hand, embraces Naomi and says to her, do not persist, do not insist that I should leave you, for I will never leave you. Wherever you go, I will go. Where you live, I will live. Where you die, I will die. Your God is my God, and your people is my people. Beautiful words of this wonderful woman. And of course, at this time, Naomi could not do anything else. And Ruth comes to Israel, and we know the story. She marries eventually one of the relatives of Naomi, and she becomes the great-grandmother of King David, and eventually, of course, the ancestress of the Melech HaMashiach, the Messiah himself. So we see here a very important point in history. One is the case of a woman, Orpah, who decides, even though she may have liked Judaism, she may have been very close to the idea of becoming a Jew, a part of the Am Israel, the people of Israel, but at the one moment, she fails in the commitment. She becomes a little bit, even with tears, she leaves, she abandons. In a sense, she rejects. And that's one of the reasons why the Talmud says that eventually she's rewarded because she cried, she had feelings, she wanted to be Jewish, but she couldn't. And the reward is that she is going to have children who are giants. One of those giants is going to be Goliath. Interestingly enough, one day the great-grandchild of Ruth and the great-grandchild of Orpah become, or the child of Orpah become meat in the war. And of course, we know the story that Goliath is defeated by David. Which is an interesting point in here in understanding that this is a contrast of two options. When you have the Torah, do you accept it or you don't accept it? It doesn't matter whether you like it or you don't like it. I mean, of course, everybody may like the Torah, like people like the Bible. But most people, they keep the Bible in the drawer if they have it. Most people don't read the Bible. Voltaire actually said that the Bible is one of the most celebrated and least read books. Most celebrated and least read. And that is true. Most people don't read the Bible. But they believe in the Bible, they quote the Bible, they hear the Bible. That's not enough. Orpah was a dilettante. Ruth embraced the Torah. And that's the Jewish people. We receive the Torah with all our heart. And that is the theme that I want to talk about with you today. The Jewish people accepting of Torah. This is a very special holiday. Very special holiday for Am Israel. The concept that God gave us this document that contains not only the laws and what to do, but it contains secrets that perhaps are beyond our comprehension. Secrets that are so profound that when the Midrash says that when Moshe came to receive the Torah, the angel said to God, why are you giving the Torah, such a sacred document, to this man, a human being with a lot of problems? He's not trustworthy. And eventually, Hashem gives the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu. But the question is, as Moshe Rabbeinu says to them, does the Torah says, do not hate. Do you hate to the angels? The Torah says, do not kill. Do you kill? Obviously, it's not for you. And of course, Moshe Rabbeinu takes the Torah with him and becomes our Torah. Behind this midrash, there is an important question. How could the angels have said, why giving the Torah to them? Obviously, the Torah is about human beings, about things that happen to us, right? So there's no reason for the angels to have even claimed, why are you giving the Torah to them? Obviously, it has to go to them. Well, my dear friends, that's a mistake. The angels were right. The Torah contains mysteries that we have no understanding, no meaning. The Torah can be read in a human term. And in human terms, it's like a diamond. You can see one facet, but you don't see the other. The Torah is like a book of for kindergarten. The way you read the Torah, the way we hear the words, but at the higher level, the Torah contains secrets that we have no concept. Now, you heard a little bit about it. I'm not so fond of it, but you heard the idea of the codes of the Torah. Sometimes you can find secrets in the Torah, or words in the Torah, or events predicted in the Torah by a certain algorithms, a combination of numbers, letters that repeat at a certain interval, a certain number, and that way they discover a lot of things in the codes of the Torah. But even without talking about the codes of the Torah, you should know that the Torah was not given the way that we have it here. The Torah was given all the words together, all the letters together. There were no words. So each 2 letters, 3 letters, you can arrange it any way you want. There's no spaces. The whole Torah is a mystery. It's a little bit like, they would say the DNA coding, or any coding at all, that you can produce things that with the codes. So, yes, the Torah is what we see, but it's a lot more. It contains secrets that are transcendental. The Kabbalah explores a little bit of that. But let me tell you, if we read the Torah at the kindergarten, let's say first grade level, the Kabbalah is no more than a high school. It's not even college, it's not graduate, it's not postgraduate. There are levels that are beyond we cannot understand. That's what the angels were saying. This is a book of great secrets. Why are you giving it to these people that don't understand anything? God obviously said, let them have this. Let them play with it. This is going to make them better. It's going to give them a meaning in life. And little by little, they'll discover other things. I mean, one day, we're going to see things that are not there, that we do not see, never saw before. I'm not going to talk today about concepts like whether, obviously the laws of the Torah are never going to be suspended. But there are a lot of things that are going to be in the future that are going to be different from what we see now. So just to recapitulate, the Torah contains elements that are very profound. I want to quote something. The Talmud says that the Torah is the blueprint of the world. The Gemara says God looked inside the Torah and created the world. It's very strange. What do you mean? The Torah existed before the world? Yes. Of course, the way we see the Torah, what happened, it's all there in the concept, what it was in God's mind, which is obviously, as I said, not at the high school level of Torah, not at the college level of Torah, but at the postgraduate level of Torah. It was Hashem's mind. The words and letters of the Torah somehow arranged, and the laws of physics, of nature and the world, the arrangement of the cosmos, all come from the same plan. That's a very profound concept. If the Torah is the blueprint of the world, then that means, at a basic level, that when we observe the Torah, we actually are doing the best thing for the world. In other words, the world has a design. By observing the Torah, we follow the design. Now, I want to point out something about the mitzvot. We think the mitzvot are what we think they are. For example, we think Shabbat is a good day for rest. Pesach is a very good day to have a seder, to have a dinner with the family. We remember while you were slaves in Egypt. All of this it's beautiful. But the Torah is actually more than that. When we observe the mitzvah, we're doing something that may not be what we think we're doing. When we observe Shabbat, we're doing more than resting. We may be arranging things in the cosmos There's a connection between us and the universe. It's a very profound idea. That's what the rabbis say, that when a man observes Torah, he becomes a partner in the work of creation. There's a very strange statement in the Gemara. Whoever recites the verses at the end of the creation, God completed the world in 6 days, on the seventh day he rested, and so on, and God sanctified the Sabbath day, whoever says that paragraph becomes a partner with Hashem. How could reciting a paragraph, make you a creator, a co-creator with Hashem? It's inconceivable, difficult to understand. But I want to clarify this a little bit. It means precisely that there are things we do in this world that we do not understand, but somehow arrange the world in a better way. We fix the world. Fascinating concept. And to some extent, by observing the Torah, we're actually functioning in the world the best possible way. If something is designed by somebody, designed in a certain specific way, it has a specific way of being used. That's what the creator of that item intended it to be. If you use that instrument correctly, then it's beneficial. If you don't know how to use it, it's useless, or it can be destructive. Let's say, for example, a hammer. Somebody creates a hammer that has a way of working. How to hold the hammer, what to do with the hammer, all this is because the designer of the hammer had an idea what the hammer used for. The world is like a hammer. Hashem created it with a specific function and design. And therefore, when you use the world in the way of the Torah, which is parallel to the universe, then you're using the world correctly. In other words, when a person keeps the Torah, he's going to achieve happiness, success, harmony. Abandoning the Torah is like using a hammer incorrectly. Ignoring that the hammer was created by somebody with a certain design is similar to the idea of working on the world without observing the Torah. Now, of course, to some extent, we know that most people do that and do not have any problem. That's the meaning of the idea that God created the world from the Torah. Okay. I want to point out then that therefore the study of Torah itself contains a very important function. Because when we study the Torah, we can see things inside that perhaps are not visible at first. Or to put it differently, we understand how God wants us to function in the world. So we understand a little bit about God's mind. And that's a beautiful idea. When we study the Torah, we have to feel that there is something profound in that. I want to point out something very beautiful that Rabbi Kook says. Every time, kechol dvar halacha, in every word of Torah that you learn, in every law, there's a light that shines. A light that shines in you, and a light that shines upon the world. Beautiful idea. It's not just that you learn how to do something. For example, I learned how to light the candles, or how to prepare for Shabbat, or how to put on tefillin. That is practical, what to do. But when I study something a little deeper, with a little more depth, actually something happens in my mind. I just don't just learn how to do it. Something affects me. Like I become smarter, more clear. There's a light that lights up. That's the way we should approach the Torah. Just looking at something that, if you want to give you an image, it's only an image, obviously. Imagine that in every word of the Torah, there's a window. You look through the window, you can see a little bit of God's mind. The mind of God in the Torah. I want to address now a very important part of the festival of Shavuot. And something that happened to us on that day. You all know the story that when Hashem wanted to give the Torah to the world, first he went to all the nations and asked them, do you want to accept the Torah? And all the nations rejected it. They said, we do not want to. They rejected the Torah. And when it came to the Jewish people, the Jews said immediately, now 7 Ishma, we're going to do it. We're going to accept it. We'll learn it afterwards. So the answer seems a little irrational. Now, means we will do it. When Ishma, we will study it. So what do you mean? How can you do something we don't study it yet? First you have to study, then you do. First you learn what to do, and then you do it. They said, no, we will learn. Do what? God didn't give us anything yet. That was such a powerful statement. According to the Talmud, God himself said, these people are working like angels. Only angels can do that. Only an angel can accept something from Hashem without asking a question. We are inquisitive people. We like to learn. We like to ask questions. And at that time, we said, Naaseh v'nishma, we will hear afterwards. So we hear, and Rav Kook explains, when something is in your nature, you do not need to learn anything new. You do it automatically. An example is the bee, a bee. A bee knows how to create a honeycomb exactly without having learned engineering, without having had to study anything. It's in the nature of the bee. It knows how to make a honeycomb. Doesn't need to learn. The action precedes the information because the information is already there in the nature of the bee. So in a nature of an angel, he doesn't need to learn. He already has, the learning is already inside. So he just does. On that day, on the 6th of Sivan, the Jewish people rose to that level. Rose to the level of angels. That day, their consciousness was so high that they said, we will do, no doubt. Contrast this with the other nations, with the non-Jews, the other nations who said, God, what is in the Torah? Tell us. We want to analyze it before we buy it, before we take it. But the Jewish people said, we don't want to know anything. Just give it to us. We'll take it. We're going to observe it because they had already a level of understanding that was already superhuman in Mammon. Of course, that level, they lost. So the first thing that we have to do in Shavuot is to realize that we are the children of that nation that once was able to reach that level. And we have to pray that in the Jewish soul there is a capacity, an intrinsic ability to be able to understand Hashem without having to learn about it. And in some way, it may be that all of us have that capacity, that sometimes we are covered by so much, temptations and defects and emotions. So what would have been a perfect, clear mind, sometimes it's confused. And that's what we sin, we don't understand, we rebel, and so on, because sometimes we're human beings. But we do have somehow something inside of us, like a glimmer, a little bit of that light, because that light we achieve on that day. So, and this Shavuot, I want to remind you, when you read the Torah, when the Jewish people says to Moshe Rabbeinu, whatever Hashem says we will do, Naaseh v'nishma, without asking any questions, that is a quality that we can at least relate to, and one day we will come to it. And that's the nature of the spirit of Am Yisrael. Now, the soul of a Jew is of a certain nature. It has the capacity, without questioning it, without analyzing, the capacity to relate to Hashem. I want to tell you, by the way, just on another level, a similar idea that Rav Kook makes. You know that in the mornings, we all say, one of the brachot is, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shelo asani isha. Men say, we bless Hashem that you didn't make me a woman. There's nothing wrong with being a woman. The problem is that we're saying that we're happy that Hashem gave us more mitzvot, gave us more commandments. So it doesn't make me a woman. I am obligated to a lot more commandments. And I'm happy because the commandments of Hashem improve me and help me. What do women say? They cannot say, thank you for making me a woman, because if the man says, thank you for not making me a woman would be like a contradiction. So what should women say? So what they said is, you look at the Siddur, She'asani kirtzono, who made me like his will. Now, the way to understand it, we could understand it, is God made me the way he wanted me to make it. But that's not the way Rav Kook understands the word kirtzono. He says, he made me like his will, which means that a woman does not need so many mitzvot because she intrinsically has a closer relationship to God's will with other mitzvot. The will of doing the right thing is in the nature of a woman. She'asani kirtzono. Already a woman possesses a higher level of the closeness with Hashem, and that's why she doesn't need all the mitzvot. So in a way, the same happens to the Jewish people. The Jewish people, the soul of the Jew, has some of these elements that make it possible, that make it closer to the will of Hashem. And that's what we achieved on that famous, beautiful day of Shavuot. I want to mention something else in this parasha. When Hashem says, I want you to become a holy nation. Now, I want to explain to you that it is not enough for us, when Hashem gave the Torah, he did not give the Torah to individuals. He gave the Torah to Am Yisrael, to the Jewish people. So on Shavuot, we really have two types of acceptance of Torah. One is the individual. We all accept the Torah. Again, we in Shavuot, we have to feel that we are accepting the Torah that Hashem gives us. And by accepting the Torah, we are actually saying that we're going to observe it and we're going to keep it and study it. But there's also another element. And that's the element of doing the acceptance of a nation. The nation itself is actually accepting the Torah. And it is through the acceptance by the Jewish people of the Torah that we can become a holy nation, a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. So here I want to point out another fascinating concept that Rav Kook develops on Shavuot. We have to hope, not only for us to become religious individually. Not just that we should learn Torah, or our children should learn Torah. There has to be also a wish that the nation of Israel should be a nation that observes the Torah. Because when the nation of Israel will observe the Torah completely, we're going to be able to have an incredible experience in the world. The influence of, imagine, for a moment, imagine if 100% of all the Jews would be observant. At different levels, I'm not saying, not everybody has to be Hasidic, not everybody to be Haredi, but observant. You know what impression this will make in the world? You know, I'm sure in your own experience, you go to a business. I was talking today to somebody, and the person was going to give me some information, and I said to them, please don't write to me on Friday, because on Friday is a holiday. And this woman said to me immediately, you know, I am also Jewish. And she was so happy. How many times you've been in an office, and when you announce you're a Jew, you make an impression. And people ask, I'm sure, ask you questions, and what are you doing? Even for those of you who are converting, when you decide to convert, you're making a message in the world. Without knowing, without realizing, you're making a tremendous influence in the world. This is only a few. You can imagine if we could actually, every Jew in every office, every business, every store, whether it's a swimmer or a stockbroker or a doctor or a professor or a blue-collar worker with his bodies, imagine if each one of them was able to teach a little Torah to them, the world would be different. Actually, when all the Jewish people will become observant, Mashiach will come because it's unavoidable. The world will be so impressed. So this is one of the things we need to think of Shavuot as well. And that is the point that Rabbi Kook makes. It's not enough just for us to become religious Jews. We also have to hope that we should become a holy nation, a Goy Kadosh. And that, I think, the only way we can become a Goy Kadosh, the only way, is through Torah. The state of Israel, it's a beautiful place. The state of Israel is a magnificent place. There's nothing wrong about it. We love it. We have a country, we have an army, but it's not a holy nation. And we only will become a holy, I mean, it's a shame. That's the beginning. The Jewish people is creating the house. Then we're going to put something in it. So the builders, the bricks, don't talk. Eventually, but we needed the bricks. We needed the country. We have, Baruch Hashem, the country. But the Goy Kadosh can only will become when we actually have Torah. I want to point out a very beautiful expression of Rav Kook, especially today, when we are don't have such a perfect situation. We are imperfect. We're in exile. Our own learning is deficient. Sometimes our observance is not perfect. Other people are not religious at all. Anti-Semitism, it's a very difficult time. So I want to point out something very beautiful that Rav Kook writes. You recall that in the Bible, we'll read it on Friday, it says that Hashem says, I will come to you in the thickness of the cloud. Thickness of the cloud. Here, Rav Kook says, that means something, the cloud is hiding the light, covering the light. But on the other hand, when you see the cloud, you know that the light is behind it. So the cloud, in a way, is sometimes an announcer of the forthcoming light. And so that's what he says, the cloud is preparing the revelation. So even today, when we see clouds and we don't see clarity and things are not perfect, there is a light behind it. And eventually, behind the cloud, there will be a revelation. There's a beautiful passage in Yeshayahu 21. Ume'ofel Umistor Eine Ivrim Tiren. And from darkness and from hiddenness, the eyes of the blind shall see. The eyes of the blind shall see. One day, when we see darkness, eventually it'll become light. And so we have to study Torah. We have to study Torah to become religious. But you have to remember, don't study Torah just to learn how to do a mitzvah. Study Torah to connect with the mind of God. And that is what we call Torah Lishma. We don't study Torah like a person who studies engineering to build something. We study Torah because the learning of Torah, even when it does not have a practical application, is an enlarging of the mind. And not only enlarging of the mind for us, enlarging the mind for the world. And if you follow what I said at the beginning, the actual study of Torah and the observance of Torah actually fixes the world. The universe is connected with us because the laws of the universe and the laws of the Torah come from the same source. That is the function. The laws of physics and the laws of the Torah are, in a way, in conjunction. And when we observe the Torah, we actually facilitate the harmony of the universe. Interesting that at the end of every tefillah, we say, Oseh Shalom Imramav, he who makes harmony and peace in the celestial realm, make him make peace among us also. And I'd like to suggest a different interpretation of that text. I would say that as we make peace in the lower realm, as he makes peace in the upper world, and we are doing it together. We are partners, co-creators with the universe. What a beautiful function of the Jewish people. I want to talk to you today about a little bit about Rav Kook. As I was learning a little bit about Rav Kook observed Shavuot, I was very, very impressed. And I think that's the feeling that I had. I want to convey to you today. What a beautiful holiday. A beautiful holiday. The Jewish people became a Jewish people because we have a Torah. What would we be without the Torah? It's the fundamental part of who we are. And so celebrating this holiday should imbue us with tremendous joy and tremendous pride and happiness. They said that Rav Kook recited one of the mystical poems of Shavuot that we're going to say on Friday morning, first day of Shavuot, the Akdamot. It was so powerful that our people hearing it, who understood a little bit the Aramaic, were crying. So I'm telling you this because I want you to feel that the observance of a holiday is more than just making kiddush and eating food, eating cheesecake and all the other things. The observance of the holiday has to be something that comes from the heart. That we feel the privilege that Hashem gave us this Torah, that each of us individually can actually observe it and harmonize the world. But not only us as individuals, but also that we are part of a nation, that the whole nation should accept the Torah. And we hope that the Torah will be accepted by all of us. And when that happens, the world will be redeemed. So I want to point out the story of Rav Kook. Rav Kook says that in every pilgrimage, every pilgrimage, when people came to Jerusalem on the three holidays, Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, as people came, they came from other places as well. Not only from Israel, they came from other countries. Among them, there were people who were not Jewish, who eventually converted. And so he says that this holiday, and especially this holiday, is a holiday that should inspire us to recognize the function of these people who come to join us as he says, Agerim amitnadvim, the converts who have, out of their generosity of their heart, from all the nations, come to accept the yoke of the mitzvot. So in a way, we actually, in every generation, there are rays of light that come from the non-Jewish world, from the nations, and these are the individuals who little by little come and join us. And so Ruth, of course, as I said at the very beginning of the shir, the image of Ruth is the image of accepting the Torah. And a convert becomes a convert only by this, by accepting the Torah. That is the basis of conversion. So it is a supreme act of a convert. It is also a lesson for all of us. Because sometimes we think that we're becoming a Jew. Well, I was born a Jew, my mother is Jewish. That's not Jewish. That's not enough. Jewish is what a convert does, is to accept the Torah. Whether you were born a Jewish or not born, once you accept the Torah, you're a Jew like anybody else. No difference. And that is the message of Shavuot. It is not only the family we come from, it's the decisions we've made in our life to accept the Torah. But there is a difference. A non-Jew without Torah is never a Jew. A Jew, even without the Torah, is still a Jew. We cannot deny it because we never know. Tomorrow he may become religious. Cannot say. He was born a Jew, cannot take it away. So, but the idea of a convert is one of the greatest manifestations of this process of the humanity returning to Jewish people. Anyway, there was a convert I want to mention to you who they called him Rabbi Avraham Yaakov, or they call Leon, the convert. He was a priest from New York. He went to Israel in 1920. And Rav Kook had written the book, the biography of his father-in-law, in which he talks about the beautiful personality that the father-in-law was, what a kind and gentle and just and wise, intelligent man, brilliant and kind, all the beautiful things he writes about him. So this priest, former priest, comes to Israel and learns Hebrew, reads the book, and comes to Rav Kook and says, you know, I want to ask your permission to translate this book. He says, and the reason that I want to do it is that only the Jewish people and the Judaism can create this kind of character, this kind of a person. I've never seen anything like this. He was apparently a pastor or priest in a very distinguished church in New York, a very rich one. He came to Israel, abandoned everything, and became a rabbi. Studied Torah, came to Rav Kook also, and when Rav Kook asked him, why are you coming back to Judaism? Why are you converting? He says, first because I just recovered from an illness, serious illness, and I'm gratitude to God. And then I was looking for something that it didn't have idolatry, that was really pure. And I went through all kinds of religions, all kinds of theologies, all kinds of philosophies. And I always found that they were lying. Ultimately, either they did not believe in God, or they believe in some sort of idol or lower being. Until I came to Judaism. It says the most pure manifestation of spirituality and connection with Hashem. The only through the life of holiness, as prescribed by the Torah, can a person achieve this kind of level. Rabbi Kook was very close to him in 1920, but then Rabbi Kook had to go to London to be a rabbi, and according to the biographer, we never heard from this man again. Who knows where he is, where his children are, what he did. But it is a story, a beautiful story. Remember, this is Rabbi Avraham Yaakov, or Leon, the convert, the Ger Tzedek. The second story that I wanted to share with you is also a story of a another convert in Switzerland, where Rabbi Kook was short time, and they wanted the rabbi to check this young man because he wanted to convert to see if he was worthy and wanted to or not. And Rabbi Kook asked him, "Why do you want to convert him?" He says, his mother was a very pure woman and taught him that he should always achieve purity, character. And he went and studied all kinds of philosophies and went all kinds of schools and theology. And one day he came across a book by Shamsul Rapha Hirsch, the German rabbi, the 19th century, who wrote extensively. He says when he found this book, he says, "I've never seen the level of spiritual life of Judaism as he has seen then." He converted to Judaism. And his mother was happy about it, that she had discovered purity. These two converts were very dear to Rabbi Kook. And every Shavuot he would speak about them. And so, to recapitulate in this shiur, we learned that the difference between Orpah and Ruth is although liking the Torah, respecting the Torah, did not accept it. Orpah goes away. The secret of Ruth, she embraced the Torah. She accepted the Torah. And that's the first lesson. The second lesson that we learn is, what is the Torah? Not just the book that we think we read. That is, yes, it is the Torah, but it is the Torah when the way that, math for a first grader is not the same as math for somebody who studies calculus. It's also math. It's a different math. Same numbers, similar numbers, similar plus and minuses. But it's a totally different experience. And the Torah also, the Torah that we read, most time that we read, the text that we read in the Torah is of first grade, or at least elementary school. Kabbalah is a little higher, but Kabbalah is only high school. But the Torah has other higher levels that we cannot even comprehend. Maybe in some levels of Kabbalah, we're able to do it. It's an instrument, it's a book that contains secrets. When we study the Torah, we get some of that light. It may not be comprehensible, we may not be able to verbalize it, but it is there. And it illuminates us, and as Rav Kook says, it brings light to the world. Then we talk a little bit about the concept of Naser and Nishma. That the Jewish people accepted the Torah even before finding out what it says in there. And this surprised even Hashem. But that means that at that moment, the Jewish people, the soul of the Jewish people, reached a level of angelic comprehension that did not need learning. It was in its nature to be close to Hashem. As I said, as a woman is close to the will of Hashem. That's why a woman does not have so many mitzvot. The Jewish people have mitzvot because they are connected to Hashem at a high level. And we now do not have that level. We lost it, of course. One day we will regain it in the time of Mashiach. But even though we don't have the full 100% of that capacity, there's a little bit in it that remains. A glimmer, a little trace. It's like a person who once gave help to people. And maybe now he's not so generous, he's not so nice, he's not so gracious, but he was once nice. He was once generous. That remains in him. Maybe one day he'll do it again, even though he doesn't do it now. That's the glimmer that we have of that Naser v'Nishma that we said at the Sinai. And then we talked about the concept that it is not enough to think of us as individuals accepting the Torah. That we have to also think about the nation of Israel, becoming all together a holy nation, a nation that imparts lessons to the world. And we ended up by talking about that even though today we have a cloud, the light is not completely shining, Rav Kook says that sometimes the cloud is a harbinger that there's a light behind. And so we should see perhaps situations, and this is in general, not only in this case. Sometimes when you see something that is not so perfect, you have a problem, you have a difficulty, you have a cloud, think that behind the cloud, there is a light. So if you see a cloud, that means there's a light behind. The cloud is announcing there's a light behind. A beautiful idea. And we ended up by saying that the converts, like Ruth, represent the message, one by one, little by little, that they are returning to the Jewish people. They're accepting the Torah, like many roots in our history. And every generation we have roots and roots and roots, more roots. And the Jewish people is a Jew because we accepted the Torah. I want to remind you of a gematria. You know, in Hebrew, every letter has a numerical value. So Ruth accepted the Torah. The Torah has 613 commandments, right? The name of Ruth is Reish, R, which is 200, U, Vav, which is 6, and Taf, Ruth, that is 400. So 206 and 400, 606. Ruth name means 606. Every non-Jew has an obligation to observe 7 commandments, the 7 Noahide laws. Ruth had only 7. By adding 606, she became a Jew, the 613. So Ruth represents the acceptance of Torah. And these converts, we have an obligation to love them, especially on Shavuot. And that's what we read Megillat Ruth. It's not a coincidence that Ruth is the mother of David, the grandmother of David. Not a coincidence. There's a message here. The message that converts are not only welcome, they are loved. We should admire them because they represent what Shavuot is about, to accept the Torah. So I hope that by keeping the Torah and accepting the Torah, as individuals, we will be better people, and together as a nation, we'll be able to become a nation that teaches the world a little bit about the Torah until the whole world will change. As it says, Mamlechet Kohanim, be unto me a kingdom of priests. Of priests. Like Medinat Israel, instead of Israel, imagine instead of just being a place that teaches us technology and fruit and beautiful country, imagine a country of people, all of them, who are teaching Torah, for giving the world the message of Torah. And that is the purpose that we should hope for. I want to end with one halacha. Remember Shavuot, there's not too many halachot. There's a custom of eating cheese. And sometimes people at night usually have a meal that consists a little bit of some light cheese, not heavy cheese, something like cream cheese or ricotta or something very light, white. And after you finish eating that cheese, you brush your teeth, change the tablecloths, and you then can have a meat meal as you do on every Chag. That is a custom of Shavuot. But other than that, there's only one thing in Shavuot to do. To be happy that we have a Torah. We're happy that Hashem gave us the Torah. And happy that we can accept the Torah in every Shavuot. Zman Matan Toratenu. Rejoice on this great day, the season of the giving of our Torah to us. Shalom.